We are back. It's been a month, and I've ordered more than I expected. Lockjaw is here with us. We are in the media room, which is mid-construction, as you can see. But we've got a giant pile of things to discuss. So let's get into it. From Kino Lorber, we have two 4Ks that have come in. The first one, Crybaby, starring Johnny Depp. Actually, there was a theme with Kino Lorber this month, because we have Crybaby in 4K. We also have Can't Stop the Music in 4K. Both of these famously campy musicals, and both of these starring just real pieces of shit in Johnny Depp and Caitlyn Jenner. Listed here as Bruce Jenner, but this is Caitlyn Jenner. This might be my favorite John Waters film. It's utterly fantastic. It's one of my partner's favorite films. The other piece of this is that I think it's an excellent place to start showing or introducing someone to John Waters. And we have a number of friends who have never seen John Waters films. And so rather than sort of direct them to something a little more sketch or have them sort of find something on their own, boom, Crybaby, 4K, looking forward to it. My personal story with Can't Stop the Music is it was New Year's Eve, maybe 2014, and I was over at a friend's house, and it was decided that this is how we would ring in the new year, watching Can't Stop the Music. I brought over a bunch of Omaha steak frozen food that my parents had sent me for my birthday because they don't know how to express affection. And we made a bunch of Omaha steaks and watched Can't Stop the Music for New Year's. And then, because we were living in Knoxville at the time, and there's nothing to do in Knoxville, Tennessee, we then went to a 24-hour Walmart and wandered around. I picked up 3 offerings from Fun City. The first one here, Bad Company, starring Jeff Bridges. Honestly, I was less interested in this when I initially had seen it. I'm not a huge Western fan. I don't even know much about the film. But what I do know, based on the trailer that Fun City released, is that David Huddleston is in it, aka the Big Lebowski. And I'm not even sure he plays a large role in the film. And they may have just featured him in the trailer so that someone like me in my demographic went, oh my god, Jeff Bridges was in a film with the Big Lebowski prior to the Big Lebowski? I have to own that movie. So I've been successfully pandered to. I also picked up Seeing Red. So we have 3 French vigilante thrillers here. Honestly, the selling point for me is that the very first Fun City disc I ever purchased was Walking the Edge. And Walking the Edge was a breath of fresh air, urban decay, vigilanteism, excellent character work. Really loved it. It's one of the things that sort of sold me on Fun City as a label. Based solely on that, bam, I'm in. Vigilantes, let's do it. Handgun. Deep in the heart. Everyone has been talking about how great this film is. And my cart was open, and this was there, and in the listing, and I was like, well, everyone says it's amazing, so let's try it out. Liz Purcell, who does a lot of repertory scheduling for different theaters across the country, and is a fantastic resource if you ever have the chance to listen to them talk about their film or queer cinema. She was posting about the film The Gay Deceivers, which, if you don't know The Gay Deceivers, it's a film that there's one particular clip that whenever it comes up, it tends to sort of go viral in my circles.
You dirty bitch! Look what you've done to my peonies!
You can take your lovely peonies and besides, you silly queen, they're not even peonies! They're marigolds!
Good God, I think she's right. They are marigolds. I may not know my flowers, but I know a bitch when I see one! Oh.
That sort of led me down a rabbit hole of film moments of extreme panic or extreme sensational yelling, which led me to...
You see it?
Yes! While we were out here fumbling with that music, the lousy bastard was in there killing her! Bastard! Bastard! Bastard!
He cut that poor girl in half while she was still alive.
And it was phenomenal. And then I realized I'd never seen Pieces. And then I realized I should own Pieces. And so here it is. It's got the CD in it, the soundtrack in it. Looking forward to it. Mondo Macabro. This is, without realizing it until recently, I think this is one of the oldest boutique labels that I was ever aware of. And then I sort of forgot about it until I became re-aware of boutique labels later in life. The very first release by Mondo Macabro I ever saw was For Your Height Only with Wang Wang.
More dairy.
That is a life-changing movie. I highly suggest it. I'm not a completionist by any means. I don't buy everything that Mondo Macabro releases, but I just trust them. Whether it's Lady Terminator or this collection of Barry Prima starring The Warrior, I just have a sense that I know what I'm getting from them is of quality, and it's very well presented, and it's worth watching. The Warrior is interesting because Rob Hill, aka the Bad Movie Bible, just put out a Barbarian Blockbuster knockoff video, and in that he talks about the Devil's Sword.
But there's seldom cause to worry where Indonesia's concerned.
Banyu Jaga, you dirty dog.
There are crazier Indonesian movies than The Devil's Sword, but nevertheless, at least 3 entirely unfathomable things happen before the end of the opening credits. And then the bad guy shows up.
Which is another Barry Prima film that I think is also based on Indonesian comic books. I think it's an interesting niche that he found himself in. I'm looking forward to these. I think that'll be fantastic. So the Mac Picas collection, I love a smut. But the thing that really sold me, in the trailer for Nymphomaniac, there is a scene in which a man appears to be wearing the white strap costume that Lilu is wearing in The Fifth Element as he partakes in an orgy. And immediately I was like, well, that's amazing. And then my mind immediately went to, wait a minute, has Luc Besson seen this? Is that why Mila Jovovich is dressed like that in his film? Is this like a French in-joke that I missed? Either way, notable, and I'm excited to see these films. I was very fortunate to participate in the Kickstarter for the Deaf Crocodile collection of Alexander Ptushko films. These hold a very warm place in my heart, in my memory. My experience, I think not unlike a lot of people of my age, exposure to things like Ilya Muromets or Sampo in the 90s, and exposure to odd 50s cinema or goofy Italian spy movies was Mystery Science Theater 3000. And these were movies that either didn't translate well or they were poor translations, and they were movies that culturally maybe didn't make the jump in terms of what was there on screen. And I credit Mystery Science Theater 3000 for exposing me to a depth and breadth of films I never would have been aware of at that age in my early teen years. And so I'm glad that I was aware of it, so that when these movies can be properly packaged, can be properly restored and presented within context, I have some foothold, I have some traction of being able to say, I understand what's going on here. I have a reference point. Two things are true at once. I'm able to understand why there was a comedic presentation of this film and an enjoyable late night sort of monster movie host version of this presentation, and yet understanding that these are great pieces of art, and when presented properly are impressive and worthwhile. And Deaf Crocodile does a fantastic job with these releases. So I'm incredibly excited to work my way through this box. We come now to Vinegar Syndrome, their offerings for the month, and the couple of extra things that I picked up. Let's work through the subscribers' offerings here. Bloodbath, The House of Death. Nowadays, I do not care for a horror comedy, simply because I find that people don't know how to make horror comedies anymore. The comedy is often stems from the extremity of the horror, and I think that is a very hard needle to thread, or it is the type of humor that is a punch-down humor that is very easy to include and very hard to, well, nearly impossible to make work. But this is from a time period where a little easier, a little more of a parody. That's what I'm expecting from this. I enjoyed Arnold when they released Arnold. I like things like Pandemonium. So if this is in line with those, I'm probably gonna really like this. Devil Times 5. I don't know how I feel about this slip. I don't know if this speaks to the film that I saw this film a while ago. That absolutely speaks to the film. This is an evil child movie, and the children are evil for reasons as established in the film, and bless them for being accurate about the devilry of children. I'd say it feels less like a slasher and more like a haunted house. No, maybe a possession movie. There is no doubt, I think, throughout the movie. There's an inevitability, and there's no secret from the audience, unlike sometimes a slasher will hold things back and plays more like a mystery. I don't think this plays like a mystery. I think this plays more like watching a Rube Goldberg machine, where you know at some point someone's getting their heads lopped off. So, looking forward to showing this to others. Hell's Trap. This is familiar to me solely from a video put out by Rob Hill at Bad Movie Bible. Shout out a second time. A video on Nightmare on Elm Street and how Freddy Krueger and elements from that film traveled internationally. You can see the blades on the hand that sort of have that carryover. I was very excited to see that it was part of the offerings this month, because it's exciting when a title pops up. You're like, oh, I've heard of that. That's a great feeling. Speaking of things that I was aware of, let's talk about Super Soul Brother. I saw this and I was like, great, lovable exploitation. This looks fun. Boom. Guy from Harlem. I mentioned Mystery Science Theater before. Riff Tracks. One of their earliest huge hits was The Guy from Harlem. It is an amazing film. It is inept in ways you cannot predict. It is earnest in ways you cannot predict. The Guy from Harlem is amazing. Now, he is from Harlem, but the entire movie takes place in Florida. It's very Miami Connection taking place entirely in Orlando. So I purchased this primarily to get a high quality version of The Guy from Harlem, and I'm excited that Super Soul Brother came along with it, that I get to check that out. Katie of the Night, who is a YouTuber that talks mostly about Giallo. She's working through Jess Franco films. She brought up a very valid point. A lot of the films we love that are genre films will play around in sleaze or smut, they'll employ nudity or sex to gin up interest or move ticket sales. And sometimes it's done artfully, sometimes it's not. But that you can have a movie that everyone would agree is a fantastic film, and then the minute nudity is brought in, or sex, suddenly it is moved to a completely different rating system. People will look at a film that has, say, hardcore sex in it, or penetrative sex, or non-simulated sex, however you like to refer to it, and say, oh, well, this is that sort of film. It's that content seems to supersede everything else about it. To the point, and I love, from what I've seen and what I've heard about this, I love this as a potential talking point film, where it's, everything I've seen about it is that this is a sort of an action, Mediterranean sort of spy film that also has not hardcore inserts, but rather just hardcore elements to it, and that is just treated as part of the film. I'm glad that this is the sort of thing that is being released. I think this variety is really important. and I'm very excited for it. A bit of a preposterous month, far more than I thought I was going to be ordering. Some of these were Kickstarters that came in, some of these were pre-orders that came in. I can't do this every month, right? We can't do this every month. I only have so much shelf space. We cannot do this. I am glad that at the very least, a lot of these are core films that I know I'm going to love, or things I've seen before, or high quality releases like the Tushko. So I'm thrilled at all of those things. I'm ready to get down and start watching these. Thanks very much. See you next month.